No dating, no marriage, no home, no children, now even no job. Stuck with no way out, Chinese youth are so depressed that they burst into tears. A two-story building in Zhuhai exploded and collapsed, burying many people. Ladies and gentlemen, the lives of young people should be vibrant and colorful. But in China, the economic downturn has created enormous pressure for them to survive. On social media, many people complain about being laid off, unemployed, and unable to find a job. Others are facing the pressure of installment loans and car loans, not knowing what to do to overcome it. In addition, some young people are starting to suffer from diseases common in the elderly, such as cervical spondylosis. Spinal disease, once considered a disease of middle-aged and elderly people, is increasingly affecting young people. They are described as 20-year-olds with 60-year-old necks. Some photos posted by Chinese netizens recently include one taken at Shanghai No. 6 Hospital showing a group of young men sitting in rows doing neck stretching under dim red lights. In the comments section, someone asked what they were doing and was told it was cervical traction. They were treating cervical spondylosis. In recent years, the incidence of cervical spondylosis has been increasing. People in occupations such as accountants, secretaries, and office workers are at higher risk of developing the disease. In addition, many companies in China have a 996 overtime culture, meaning employees work from 9 o'clock to 9 o'clock, 6 days a week. Even if the boss forces his employees to work, he doesn't have to worry about them quitting because China's economy is in recession and job hunting is difficult. For workers, just having a job is already a blessing. The internet is full of complaints about job hunting. On July 17, a girl in Chengdu cried in a video sharing that she applied for a job with a monthly salary of 3,000 yuan, or about 10 million dongs, and had to work 6 days a week. Despite having work experience, she was still rejected. On July 15, a food delivery person posted a video saying, "I have a bachelor's degree in accounting and I'm currently delivering food. What about you?" Many netizens shared, "I studied construction engineering and now I sell things. I graduated with a bachelor's degree in accounting and am currently a trainer. I have a bachelor's degree in medical laboratory technology but am currently working as a telemarketer. I graduated from a prestigious university with a major in financial management, but am now unemployed and feeling miserable." The high youth unemployment rate is not only a crisis for young people, but also affects senior professionals who have worked hard for many years. Shanghai-based media personality Chen Majiading said that she and her husband have been working hard in Shanghai since 2012. Her annual salary is 200,000 yuan, or about $28,000. However, after 7 years of hard work, she was laid off. As her unemployment period dragged on, conflicts between her and her husband began to arise. Finding a job is very difficult for young people nowadays, and if you have passed the age of 35, finding a job becomes even more difficult. A viral video shows a girl selling rice balls at a stall after 90 days of unemployment. On the first day of opening the stall, she only sold 5 yuan and cried a lot because she felt depressed. She said she had to wake up at 5 o'clock to prepare ingredients and face many unexpected situations when displaying goods, which was much more tiring than her previous job. The high unemployment rate is making many people worried about the future. On Chinese social media, many bloggers share how to reduce living expenses to 300 yuan per month, about $42. Young people increasingly favor the style of revenge saving and set very high monthly savings goals. Young people in China are facing great pressure to survive and many feel hopeless, leading to a situation where young people in their 40s have no assets, no job, no family, and no hope. In a video, a man from Tianjin shared, "I am a 40-year-old man. No dating, no marriage, no house buying, no children. The cost of dating is too high now, and all sincerity must be accumulated with money. It's not that I don't work hard, but my efforts don't bring results. The fierce competition has left me with no other choice. The greatest love I can give my children is not to bring them into this world. In the view of many young people in the current era, getting married and having children only brings more burdens instead of happiness. In large and medium-sized cities in China, taking out a home loan can turn a young person into a family slave for life. The 996 work regime, working from 9 o'clock to 9 o'clock. 6 days a week almost takes up all of their free time. Mr. Cao, 36, from Shenzhen, is still single. He told reporters, "It's not that young people want to live like this, it's the social environment that determines this, not personal efforts." For example, I know a high-income couple who spent millions of dollars to buy a house. They had a stable income to pay the mortgage and their life was fine. But now because of the economic downturn, they lost their jobs and the bank stopped lending. All their efforts in the past few years have gone down the drain, leaving them with nothing. So what can we expect? A 2-story building in Zhuhai exploded and collapsed, burying many people. Natural disasters and man-made disasters continue in mainland China, and the authorities are trying their best to block the news. A 2-story residential building in Zhuhai, Guangdong, exploded and collapsed. However, the official report only mentioned that the building collapsed, avoiding any reference to the explosion. On August 6, a 2-story residential building in Niwan Village, Jing'an Town, Dumen District, Zhuhai City, exploded and collapsed instantly. Videos circulated on the internet showed the building completely collapsed, with rubble everywhere. A nearby female villager told her daughter, "It exploded." Surveillance video of the scene circulated online showed that the explosion occurred around 1642 that day. With a loud bang, the outer wall of the first floor of the residential building suddenly bulged and broke, and flames from the explosion could be clearly seen through the gap in the wall. Additionally, before the outer wall cracked, there were flashes of fire outside the building, suggesting that the explosion may have occurred more than once. Local netizens reported hearing the loud noise of the explosion. Some villagers said that a gas tank exploded, and there might have been more than one. Other villagers mentioned that gas tanks exploded every few months in the area, and they suspected that official supervision was not strict and the gas tanks might have been unqualified. Some netizens also doubted whether a gas tank could have such great power and speculated about the possibility of other explosives. Others questioned whether it was an accident or man-made. The official report that night stated that at around 1650, the residential building collapsed, causing 4 people to be trapped. 2 people have been rescued, one of whom was slightly injured, and the other was being treated with all efforts. That night, a resident reported that another person was dug out and sent to the hospital. The official report did not mention the explosion at all, which aroused speculation. In the past, the CCP has always concealed the truth of such accidents. Currently, natural and man-made disasters continue in mainland China. Floods have occurred in many places in the south and north, and the south has entered a period of high temperatures again. Simultaneously, incidents of suicides, vendettas, random hacking, and car ramming have occurred frequently, along with reports of fires and explosions. Factories closed and went bankrupt en masse, nearly 50% of Chinese youth exploited.
Finally, the shutdown of my post-80s brother's factory is complete. Workers have already begun dismantling the equipment. The true challenge of physical manufacturing can only be grasped by those who have experienced it firsthand. When there is abundant work, there are no workers. When there are plenty of workers, there is no work. Large orders bring no profits, and profitable orders are rare. Those with both volume and profit are burdened by debt. The man in the video is the owner of a mechanical processing plant who, faced with long-term insufficient orders and various delayed payments, found it increasingly difficult to keep operating. Reluctantly, he had to shut down the factory that he had run for many years. My factory closed, resulting in a loss of over 10 million. The premises were leased, with 3 years remaining on the contract, and the security deposit is irrevocably lost. China's manufacturing industry is grappling with a wave of shutdowns and relocations, a trend that has been on the rise since last year. Many well-established international trade firms have either ceased operations or shifted elsewhere, largely due to a slump in both foreign and domestic demand. This downturn has led to an alarming rate of overcapacity, casting a long shadow over the sector. As per reports, about 90% of the factories are navigating through dire straits or closing doors permanently. A few days ago, a friend's factory in Shenzhen closed down, resulting in unemployment for over 50 workers. This factory, which specialized in mold manufacturing and had been operational for 15 years, faced dire circumstances. At the start of the year, it ran out of orders. The decline in orders reflects a broader trend in Guangdong and throughout the industry, where approximately 90% of factories have shut down. Previously reliable customers now place only small orders or none at all. The factory had a significant challenge. It was essential to remain operational to collect unpaid balances from numerous past customer orders. Facing the dilemma of either ceasing operations, which would risk losing all outstanding payments, or continuing at a loss without being able to pay workers, the owner made a tough decision. After much consideration, he sold all the equipment and his long-time home in Shenzhen to mitigate the losses. A recent instance hit close to home when a colleague's enterprise, a mold processing plant with a 15-year history in Zhejiang, shuttered, leaving all its 50 employees jobless. Their ordeal mirrors the challenges faced by the vast majority of manufacturers in the country. Prior to 2020, the facility could still boast modest profits. However, the pandemic's onset disrupted their workflow, halting production sporadically and turning profitability into a losing streak that stretched well beyond the initial year of the crisis. My factory has closed, ending in a loss of over 10 million. The facility was leased, with 3 years remaining on the contract, and the deposit is definitely lost. I also plan to sell this car to cover the wages of the workers and the payments to suppliers. What pains me most is the equipment purchased brand new 2 years ago, some domestic and some imported, which were barely used for a year. Now, no one wants them even at half price. If they can't be sold, they must be scrapped. Emerging from the throes of 2021 and 2022, the company held on without ambitions for growth, seeking merely to break even. Yet, the new year brought no respite, with a sharp decline in orders, even from long-standing clients. The manufacturing domain saw reduced demand, even less than in the worst pandemic years, igniting fierce rivalry for the scant business available. In this cutthroat environment, not only was profitability elusive, but clients also began insisting on receiving goods prior to payment, a condition that strained resources further. As we moved through the latter half of 2023, our efforts were largely spent in pursuit of receivables, with many clients deferring payments, aggravating the financial strain. This challenging phase, marked by a dire need for liquidity, forced us to mortgage personal assets just to keep afloat. Now, reflecting on these trials, one can only perceive a stark contrast between the industry's former vitality and its current predicament, serving as a cautionary tale for the once thriving manufacturing landscape. In a grueling cycle, he found himself in relentless pursuit of overdue payments from clients who were increasingly reluctant to settle their dues. Financial reserves at his factory had dried up long ago, prompting him to pledge his property in Xi'an as collateral for the loans that kept the business on life support. As the situation grew more desperate, the toll of continuous financial uncertainty weighed heavily on him. Confronting relentless challenges and depleted of energy, he made the difficult decision to cease the operations of his workshops. He could hardly fathom that his struggle to keep the business alive through 4 strenuous years would end in this quiet capitulation. The early months of 2024 marked a dismal era for Dong'an, previously hailed as a manufacturing giant. Now cavernous factories stand desolate, echoing their past productivity. Some premises have been searching for lessees for years, despite their readiness for occupation and significant rental reductions from their original 400,000 monthly rate. A stark example was a sprawling factory, now vacant, once bustling under a prestigious company's ownership. Since their departure, no new enterprises have taken up the mantle, and the space remains unused. Many industry leaders are likewise grappling with sustaining operations amidst dwindling orders, wrestling with the decision to keep their gates open or shut them for good. As for my own experience, this April has brought even fewer contracts than the previous year. Mid-month has arrived, yet the prospect of new business is bleak, mirroring the struggle many of my contemporaries face. Without a resurgence in orders, those of us helming smaller manufacturing concerns are facing an inevitable slide into debt and societal decline. This narrative isn't unique to my establishment in Gong, it's symptomatic of a broader industry crisis. A considerable segment of our output is geared toward international trade, yet Donggen's economic downturn last year was testament to widespread issues in exports and a subsequent reduction in productivity. Labor discontent is mounting, exemplified by the recent protest at Huang Automobile Electric CTD, where employees, largely migrants, rallied for reinstatement of work to salvage their livelihoods. The company, a private entity dedicated to automotive wiring innovations, found itself stifling production due to insufficient demand from its client base of car manufacturers, many of whom have scaled back operations. This ripple effect of idle factories and laid-off workers underlines the broader economic strife and industrial stagnation that plagues our once thriving sector. This labor strife comes against a backdrop of widespread factory shutdowns and reduced operational capacities that have left many skilled workers in Guangdong's job market struggling to find stable employment. Scenes from job fairs are telling, with recruiters turning away candidates over the age of 33, signaling a distressing trend in employment practices. This pattern of industry contraction suggests that within the next couple of years, the once dynamic labor migration in China could come to a halt, casting a shadow of uncertainty over the prospects of the nation's youth. The narrative of overcapacity, a subject of global discourse, is resonant in China's recent governmental reports and the observations of economic scholars like Lu Feng from Peking University. They argue that this has been a persistent issue since China's accession to the World Trade Organization. The inexpensive goods labeled made in China have long saturated international markets, undermining the manufacturing sectors in the West. Post-pandemic, as China grapples with weak economic recuperation, diminished export demands, and surplus production exceeding local demand, industries across the board are contending with excess capacity. This scenario has led to a unique economic phase where China is faced with deflation, even as it strives to boost exports and reinvigorate its economy. China is pushing to swell its export volumes by entering Western markets with competitively priced, cutting-edge technology goods. These items, dubbed by the government as the new engines of quality production, span from electric vehicles and batteries to semiconductor chips and solar panels. Despite the optimistic presentation, there's a growing consensus among economic observers that this aggressive export approach, dubbed as China Cheap Goods Impact 2.0, might backfire, potentially unsettling the domestic market balance. Recent data divulged by Chinese authorities on April 16 unveiled a 5.3% growth in the country's economy for the first quarter, a figure spurred by robust industrial production and export activities, particularly in January and February. However, this growth decelerated in March, signaling a potential concern: the phenomenon of overcapacity. Such overproduction has led to a race to the bottom among Chinese firms, as they slash export prices to keep goods moving, inadvertently sacrificing profit margins and weakening the overall pricing power of Chinese industry on the global stage. An even more concerning sign of economic stress is the sharp drop in capacity utilization within Chinese manufacturing, a mere 73.8% in the first quarter, a nadir not seen since 2015. This trend was stark in sectors heavily endorsed by the government, such as electric vehicles, chips, and solar panels, where a conspicuous dip in operational rates has emerged. The automotive industry, in particular, reported a utilization rate falling below 65%, underscoring a disconnect with the sector's current state. The Chinese government's hefty financial backing, with subsidies totaling over 200 billion yuan, approximately 28 billion USD up to the present day, and at times exceeding 40 billion yuan, around 5.6 billion USD annually, has had unintended consequences. The subsidy influx has led to the rise, and also the fall, of myriad companies within the automotive sector, with many entities merely existing to profit from the subsidies without producing actual vehicles. As reported by the Wall Street Journal, the number of Chinese electric car makers has dwindled dramatically from over 487 to just about 40 within 5 years, a clear indication of market saturation and the repercussions of the recent withdrawal of government subsidies. This predicament reflects not only on the overcapacity plaguing China's new energy automotive industry, but also the complexities of managing a subsidy-driven market. In the competitive arena of China's automotive manufacturing, a series of innovative companies including WHMA, Innovate Single, and Aiwei are confronting severe financial crises. Collectively, these enterprises had projected an ambitious annual production capacity exceeding 10 million vehicles, supported by a substantial investment of over 600 billion yen, roughly 83 billion USD. Despite these lofty goals, the actual utilization of this capacity has fallen short, hovering around 3.8 million vehicles in the face of market realities. This gap has led to a notable inefficiency in the allocation of resources and capital. Among these, Hi-Fi Cars, known for targeting the premium market segment, has declared a significant pause in operations, akin to a shutdown, becoming the first casualty in the electric vehicle sector in 2024. This cessation has reverberated through the secondary market, where once valuable vehicles are now hard sells, even at dramatically reduced prices. Owners of Hi-Fi Cars are facing the harsh reality of steep depreciation, with some cars losing more than a third of their value. This downturn in the industry isn't isolated to Hi-Fi. WHMA Motors, another prominent name in electric manufacturing, has ceased operations, leaving behind a host of dissatisfied customers with vehicles that have quickly become nothing more than expensive paperweights. This situation is symptomatic of a broader issue plaguing nearly 80% of China's electric vehicle startups, an intensely competitive market rife with overproduction and underselling, which has pushed many companies to the brink of survival. Even the industry giants are not immune to these challenges, with Xiaomi recently entering the fray only to face significant losses in its automotive ventures. Li Auto, a once profitable name in the electric vehicle market, is now grappling with the realities of an oversaturated market, hinting at potential cutbacks and layoffs. Its peers, NIO and Zun, are also struggling to stay afloat amidst fierce competition. With sales lagging behind projections, these companies find themselves in a precarious position. The electric vehicle industry, heavily incentivized by government subsidies, is now in a state of flux. The cessation of these subsidies has led to a necessary but painful market correction. This industry's upheaval has shown that sustainability in this sector is not just about technological innovation but also economic viability. With many companies on the verge of folding, the future landscape of China's electric vehicle market remains uncertain. Chinese electric vehicle EV manufacturers are steering towards international waters. Yet, such a move has raised the alarm among nations wary of the influx of affordable Chinese EVs. The United States and the European Union have expressed concerns, fearing a flood that could unsettle their own industries and market dynamics. These trepidations are mirrored by the accumulating stockpiles of Chinese EVs at European ports, a visual testament to the imbalance between China's manufacturing capabilities and global demand. Even as these vehicles mass at docking bays, shipments continue unabated, a clear sign of China's determination to sustain its manufacturing output. This persistence raises the specter of a familiar cycle, a buildup of excess followed by financial strain, often culminating in the Chinese government or state-run banks having to shoulder the fallout. The pattern is not new. It echoes the legacy of ambitious yet ultimately unprofitable investments in areas like real estate and infrastructure, a pattern that leads to numerous stalled projects and wasted resources. Mary Gallagher, a recognized authority on Chinese policy from the University of Michigan, pinpoints overcapacity as a hallmark of Chinese administrative strategy, a tendency towards surplus production and overambitious goals that stretch back to historical initiatives like the Great Leap Forward. Within these bold ventures lies an inherent gamble, a bet on certain industries to propel the nation forward, despite the high stakes and potential for colossal losses. History bears witness to such gambles falling short, particularly in sectors like semiconductor production and commercial aviation. These industries, once buoyed by heavy government investment, have faltered, failing to deliver on their promise. Today, the EV industry appears to be treading a similar path, with subsidies and incentives no longer masking the underlying issues. If unaddressed, this pattern is likely to reverberate through China's economic landscape, potentially undermining the very foundation it aims to bolster.